Good morning, everyone. My name is Zbigniew Korba. I'm a partner at Deloitte Legal. It is my pleasure and honor to open this session. Deloitte Legal is present in 90 countries. We asked our colleagues from some of them to provide feedback regarding digitalization during last months in their countries. 33 countries, beginning with Portugal through the Netherlands, the UK, and ending with Belarus or Azerbaijan, responded. We gathered really nice feedback, allowing us to say that digitalization, which accelerated during last months, it's a global thing. Please let me introduce our today's speakers, co-authors of this report, Miłosz Brakoniecki, who is a partner in Obserwatorium.biz, advisory company helping other companies to digitalize their activity, helping public sector entities to do the same. Really focused on electronic identification during last months, and they are partners of this conference for a couple of years. Thank you for invitation, Deloitte, in this year's edition to provide legal input. And our presenter is Simina Mut. Simina is for a few months leader of Central Europe, covering 18 countries. During last years, the leader of Center of Excellence, global venture at Deloitte, providing services globally, and a real enthusiast of legal tech. Miłosz, Simina, the floor is yours. This is really valuable input feedback. Believe me, I encourage everyone to read this report. It is available today. Really nice, interesting issues inside.
Thank you, Zbigniew, for the introduction. Yes, as you said, we together with some partners, of course, also ASECO, we introduced this report as for every year for this conference. And what are the results? I would like to share with you the main business outcome of this report. For sure, it's obvious we can say that the pandemic situation pushed the digitalization in companies in the very fast way during last 6 months. More than 90% of companies introduced at least one project regarding this matter. And of course, in the first weeks, we as a companies, as a public administration, as a social organizations, we had to organize our work in new digital way. It means more than 50% of projects in companies, in public administrations, was regarding remote work, HR, internal processes. For sure, we had to prepare for these new conditions. But on the other hand, when we already stuck in home and were ready to work remotely, we had to think that also our business, our relations with the partners, with clients, with consumers, also these areas of our activity as a companies need to be transformed into a digital world. And at the end, it was not so easy, not so nice as this, let's say, internal procedures, because we had to go out of our world, out of our, let's say, internal world of our companies. So we had to rethink how we can introduce to digital channels such cases like sales, like customer service. No one can live as a company without making a business with their clients. So as we can see on this slide, it was the second stage we made, but less than 50% of companies was really ready to prepare such a project. Why? Because it is really not so easy to introduce a project to digitalize our relations with external customers. But of course, as you can see on another slide, we took the main information from the report that, of course, some main projects happened. The first was the video verification, which was, let's say, the first way to introduce possibility of service and acquire customer online. So a lot of banks, a lot of insurance companies, a lot of other firms across the Europe tried to introduce a new way using video verification. Also, public administration, even in Poland, using temporary trusted profile, tried to use this new way of customer acquisition through this new channel. Of course, what we can also see that a lot of QTSP started to sell better their products. A new sign platforms introduced and they gained new popularity, and of course new EID initiatives happened. But still there are some gaps, there are still some problems regarding this matter, and may also according legal side, and Simina will also say about this further. And on the third important matter, what happened is that we as a market, we tried to popularize this digital service, which already was in place, but they were not so common. I mean, a lot of CSR projects happen. For example, platforms which let aggregate a lot of services which are ready to go via online, like we I started to learn how to purchase online, how to order food online, how to sign the agreement with employees online. And also we look for the special target group like seniors, and we as a market started to help them to learn this new functionality which already was in the market. So it is, let's say, the snapshot of the situation like it is. But still, we have a lot of to do also in terms of legal matter. Simina, please, maybe one more thing. So I would like to summarize this my business matter, that now there is no question if we need digital transformation, because now it's, I think, obvious for everyone. But we have to look especially and take care of some main area of fast digitalization, on risk of fast digitalization, which are, from our perspective, cybersecurity, user experience, adjustable business models, good IT tools, and of course, legal issues. Simina, please continue.
Thank you very much, Miłosz. Thanks, Zbigniew. Very nice to be with you, at least in this format for now. As Zbigniew described, we had quite an extensive survey on legal matters from our colleagues around more than 30 jurisdictions. And this was also supplemented with an extensive survey of business partners and usage of trust services and electronic signatures by businesses across the world. Some of the interesting findings that we have, obviously, and I think this is no surprise for everybody, for anyone, digital signatures are the most popular form of trust services for now. What I think is interesting, and building up to what Miłosz was describing, using different formats for electronic identification, especially in a remote setting using video, we see this increasing in popularity. Similarly, electronic validation, timestamping, are more and more used by companies as ways of digitalizing processes. There's still unexploited potential with e-delivery, and particularly, and I'm going to touch upon this a bit later on, in terms of interoperability of systems, and also e-seals as additional ways of additional means of digitalizing. If we go to the next slide, that there have been a couple of trends that we've been noticing during the last period. I think the most important one, particularly from a lawyer's perspective, was a more and more favorable approach from regulators in terms of digitalization. We've seen in our responses from the countries across the board some activity from regulators, either providing temporary, but in many cases permanent changes to legislation, allowing, for instance, for remote holding of shareholder meetings or ways of remote interacting with public authorities. I think this is a great trend, and it will continue as such. I was recently talking to the Polish legal team. I understand there is a move from, in labor law terms, from temporary measures towards more permanent changes with respect to remote interactions. So this is a trend that we've seen in the last few months, and we definitely will see it continue. As mentioned earlier, the need for remote generators of digital identity became clearer and clearer. I think there is still a long way to go, particularly in terms of regulated industries such as financial services, where KYC processes need to be carried out and in a safe and secure manner. We're seeing in some markets, Italy is an example where KYC processes handled by the bank can be used and as in terms of as identification for accessing other services. So a trend that is positive and will continue to generalize in our view. And of course, going mobile, ubiquity of services, accessibility from any location comes with definitely a lot of positives, but also with challenges, particularly from the legal side, things around data, protection of rights and so on, are challenges that we need to be mindful of as these services become more ubiquitous. If we can go on the next slide, please, Miłosz. There are obviously two phases of going digital, and you touched this a bit earlier in your note. Obviously, there are challenges and concerns in digitalization processes. As part of our survey, businesses responded that lack of know-how, lack of knowledge is the biggest challenge that they're facing in terms of digitalization. And this can be, in our view, lack of knowledge around, definitely around legal effects, processes, procedures, but also as we are more and more involved in processes, there's lack of awareness about the possibilities that digitalization can actually bring. If you can still go back to the previous slide, please. In addition to the lack of know-how, definitely there is a cost element, and I think the recent changes and the providers of solutions in the system have come to respond to this, but definitely the cost element is an important one. And of course, as with any process, change management is a key topic. From a legal perspective, what we're seeing is are a couple of things. Definitely, in each of the markets that we that we survey, there is still a perception of insecurity in terms and uncertainty in terms of usage of electronic forms of contracting, and particularly on the legal weight of these types of documents. So there is definitely an education component that us as lawyers still need to do with customers and with authorities. We're also seeing in the various markets different practices of public authorities. We're seeing some who are more open, who have taken steps to facilitate digitalizing processes and usage of electronic signatures, electronic filing. There are still others that lag behind or are focused on some processes that are core, and less focused on processes where they are part of what are not core to their activities. Definitely, things get much more complicated as we are trying to move cross-border. Business obviously is more and more cross-border, and our survey identified many challenges and differences in legal regulatory regime, differences in practice of public authorities across the markets that we've been surveying. As one of the next steps that we are doing at Deloitte Legal, because obviously digital signature is a very important component of the trusted economy. But there are legislative developments around e-notary and e-identification. And we're currently carrying out a survey across our EU markets to assess the state of legislation, the state of the practice, and any progress in terms of local regulations on both EID and electronic notarial deeds, which we believe are a natural next step for a further trusted economy and to bring about the full potential of digitalization that we've started. So if we could go on the last slide of the presentation, which are a couple of samples from our experience, both from the business side and from the legal side, on steps for a successful digitalization process. As with everything, a good project starts with a good understanding of processes, internal processes that are impacted by the envisaged change. And obviously, because we're dealing with sensitive data, it means understanding data, sensitive types of data that we're holding, that we want to have, that we should have, and also the sensitivity and legal implications of that data. With the legal requirements being identified, there's obviously the customer-facing element, customer and supplier-facing element. So discussing with the business partners, contractors, and all stakeholders involved in a end-to-end process that we're looking to digitalize is a key next step. Here, obviously, lawyers, consultants can help in order to ensure that the process is properly mapped. The change that we talked about earlier is handled appropriately. And an important component of this is having a relevant e-signing policy, making sure that the people involved in the process know what to do at each step of the way, know what is required, what is important, what are the do's and don'ts at each step of the way to ensure a proper digitalization process. Obviously, proper communication internally and externally within the team and with the business partners in a joint paperless approach. And of course, to keep open on the technological and market changes. As mentioned, the recent developments in terms of per transaction signature is an important step and tackles one of the challenges that we've been seeing a few months back in terms of adoption of e-signature with business partners. And from my perspective, last but not least, I think it's very important to outline that digital signing is a first step in a digitalization process. But it is actually it's a very important step, but it's sort of at the surface. There is so much more value that organizations can draw from a fully digitalized contracting process, for example, from having proper metadata that can be searchable, from having a proper document management system where obligations can be easily managed from. There's real business value that digitalization can bring, in addition to efficiency, cost, speed, and so on. There's true value that can be extracted from such processes, and definitely signing an ID are the first steps to here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Here on this slide, you can see the authors of the report. And of course, we would like to thank you for the first presentation. Thank you all of our partners. And we would like to invite you to download the report, which is available on www.obserwatorium.biz website, and of course also on website of Deloitte.pl. And it will be also available for all participants of the conference after the event. Thank you very much.
Yes, and big thank you to Marta Gosau, who did not sleep this night in order to prepare everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much.